Welcome, Lumineers and fans of the happiest card game on earth. My name is John T. You've just been put in the inkwell. Hope you all had a fantastic Halloween if you celebrate it. If you don't, I hope you had a rockin' Tuesday. But we're back with a pile of reveals for Rise of the Floodborn, set 2 of Lorcana, coming in just a few weeks now. First of all, we have a 7-costed inkable 5/6 for 1 lore in Steel, Queen of Hearts Moody Monarch. Off with your head. Whenever an opposing character is banished, you may ready this character. Awesome art on this rare from Jenna Gray. So this card seems to be a slightly toned down version of the Emerald Beast we saw that readies on damaging characters, but honestly most likely just goes into the same deck, giving you 8 copies of a top end card for all of the Emerald and Steel pingy stuff that you're going to want to do. This isn't terrible, and obviously if you're playing this deck you would much rather see Beast on your top deck rather than this one, but I still don't think this is awful. The only thing that's really holding her back here is the 1 lore. If she had 2 lore, I think she'd be very, very playable and really just another top end to that deck alongside the Beast. But for now at least, I think she's sort of a weaker version of a similar card coming from the same set. A 4-costed inkable 2/5 for 2 lore in Steel next. Eli LaBouffe, Big Daddy. This Steel vanilla doesn't have a terrible stat line, to be honest with you, for 4, although at this point vanillas I feel are going to see less and less play because there's just going to be something else in that slot in one of the 2 colours you're playing in that's going to get you some more value. But honestly, a limited card, this will be fine. An uncommon that swings for 2 lore with a big butt on it is very, very playable in limited, but I don't think this will see constructed play. Next up, a 3-costed inkable action in Emerald. Ring the Bell, banished, chosen, damaged character. Brian Weiss providing art on this uncommon, which will very quickly become a staple, I think. This is really solid removal in Emerald. As I've said before, I don't think you're ever going to see just banish character in any other colour than Ruby. There's always going to be a caveat, and here it has to be damaged. But honestly, Emerald is wanting to do a lot of damage, either if that's in the Emerald Steel package that wants to ping stuff for cards like Beast and Queen of Hearts, or it's in the Emerald Discard or Aggro package where you're just going to be swinging out for lore and they have to take a turn to deal with you. You're going to be able to play this and get rid of something. The fact that it's inkable is fantastic, and the fact that it doesn't bounce stuff like Mother Knows Best is fantastic as well. Mother Knows Best at the moment is great removal in Emerald. I'm playing 4 of it in my Emerald deck, but as the game draws out, you're wanting to bounce stuff a lot less because more often than not, your opponent's high-end cards are going to have enter the board abilities. You know, we're thinking things like Elsa's Spirit of Winter, Giant Tinkerbell, Genie on the Job, all these things that when they hit, you get value out of them instantly, become really, really bad targets for a bounce spell. You're going to want to just get rid of them into the discard instead, and that's what Ring the Bell does. So I think overall, honestly, even though Mother Knows Best is singable, which is really great sort of boon for that card, I do think Ring the Bell is probably going to replace it as the removal of choice for Emerald moving forward. If you want a heavy removal deck, you can obviously run both, but I think for the most part, Ring the Bell probably just is just swapped out there for personally. Next up, a 4-costed uninkable 1/5 for 2 lore in Sapphire. Mrs. Judson, I think that is. Her name is translated here in German. Her ability is Clean Up. Whenever you play a Floodborn character, you may put the top card of your deck into your inkwell face down and exerted. Art here by Michaela Martin on this rare card. So I got really excited when I first saw this card because I am planning on running a Sapphire Emerald Floodborn Matters deck, and obviously this ticks most of the boxes there, but the fact that it's uninkable and probably comes a little later than you want it, I don't necessarily think this is going to see that much play. Unfortunately, most of the Floodborn stuff I'm going to want to be playing is a 6-costed Shift 5 or 5-costed Shift 4 or Shift 3, and at that point this card is just getting in the way of your curve and is allowing you to ramp into nowhere. Obviously ramp is very strong, and this ability, is a repeatable 1 jump ahead or a repeatable Detective Mickey. But until we see some really top-end Floodborn characters in these colours, I feel like you're just ramping to nowhere, and this is taking up a slot in the deck that will rather play something like Cogsworth or Aurora Ward or something like that. Neither of those are 4, but that kind of time you're not necessarily wanting to ramp too much. A lot of the time in the lower ink Sapphire stuff, You're not even playing Detective Mickey because it's ramping you past your 4 slot, which can often get very clunky, especially because we've seen some really good 4 slots, one of which we're going to take a look of in a minute. Next up, another one I can't really quite get my head around, a 3-costed inkable 2/4 for 1 lore in Emerald, Belle Bookworm. Storyborn Hero Princess, uncommon with art by Jenna Gray. Beautiful art, by the way, actually. I really adore this. I think it's a really beautiful card. The ability is use your imagination. While an opponent has no cards in their hand, this character gets +2 lore. So obviously this is leading into the discard synergy that we're seeing in Emerald. And again, on paper, looks really good until you start to look at that cost and try and figure out where this fits. This is the other Belle card we're getting in Emerald. The other one obviously wants to do similar kind of stuff, and that's the Floodborn Belle. She wants to discard their hand when she's challenged, but she's the Floodborn, and this is clearly one of the shift targets, but I almost feel like they're the wrong way round. The Floodborn is the one that empties the hand, and then the shift target that should come first is the one that gets higher lore when their hand is empty. So yeah, it's a little bit of a weird one, this, I think. I guess you could play this on 3, but then the shift is a 3 shift, so you play this just on top of it a turn later. Then you could use Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo to bounce them both back and then just replay the shift one. I don't know, it just seems like a bit of a nombo here. Maybe I'm just not seeing the line yet. Maybe there's other Bells to come. I would love to see a Belle in Amber, probably, to go along with this sort of really heavy discard stuff that we're seeing. But at the moment, I'm just not quite sure this one sees play over something that just always has 3 lore in the 4 slot, like hands, for instance. Or, again, another card we're about to look at, I think probably just does this job better. Next up, we had Gumbo Pot, a 2-costed inkable item in Sapphire, with the ability, the best I've ever tasted. You can exert this to remove 1 damage each from up to 2 chosen characters, with art from this uncommon by Tanisha Chereslin. This one was revealed by good friends of mine, Liam and Erin, over on the Illumateers. They have an awesome live show on a Monday night, just before our live show on a Monday night. So you can tune into them. I think it's 7 till 8 Eastern, and then we are, no, sorry, it's 8 till 9 Eastern, and then we are 9:30 till whenever we're done Eastern. So I'll put a link in the description. If you were there live this week, you would have seen this revealed live. And yeah, it's actually pretty good. It's incredible art, and I'm pretty sure that's the reason they got this one, because they are very focused on the art and the lore of the story, and this is a really beautiful looking card. But it's actually a pretty solid ability as well. It's a great cheap item for the Tamatoa and Maurice decks. It's also going to play very nicely with some of the other Sapphire healing stuff we've seen, like Grand Pabby. Can totally see this one finding a home in either of those decks, and it's just a pretty solid card. It doesn't really matter that it's only 1 damage, because I think for the most part you're just going to be looking for the heal triggers for other cards in that deck. Talking of revealing cards on our live stream, we got to do one as well, so incredible thanks to Team Lorcana for letting us show this off live on Monday. This is a 4-costed inkable action in Emerald, Pack Tactics. Gain 1 lore for each damaged character opponents have in play. Awesome art by Don Aguilo, with this rare card from Emperor's New Groove. And wowee, what a card. This is, I think, honestly, one of the best cards that anyone's got to reveal on YouTube. I'll just say it. I think this is incredible. I'm a big multiplayer fan. I play a lot of multiplayer Lorcana. This card is broken in multiplayer. You play down a giant tink, pinging everything for 1, and then play this, there is a good chance you just win the game outright. You know, you can play this on turn 6 or 7, ping everything for 1 or 2, and quite easily, comfortably gain 6, 7, 8 lore in a multiplayer game. Yeah, it's insane. Like, honestly, just could win you the game, and that's incredible. So, does it see 1v1 play? Honestly, I really want to be testing this out in 1v1, and I'm interested to hear, I'd like you to let me know in the comments, actually. I'm interested to hear what the floor of this card would be for you. Would you be happy playing this for 4 ink and gaining 2 lore? Would you be happy playing this for 4 ink and gaining 3 lore, 4 lore? I think it's somewhere around the 3 or 4 lore mark. But honestly, late into the game, you're both top decking, both got a couple of things on the board, and nothing seems to stick. You know, this could be all you have to do is swing in with your characters, or quest with your characters if they've got damage on already, and play this and gain 2 lore, and it could be the win. Anything that gains you lore on your turn, the turn it's played, we didn't really see much of it in set 1, really. There was the possibility of doing it with shifting abilities. Eye of the Fates you could play on the turn and then give something a lore. But in set 2, it's much more prevalent, and this is obviously one of those cards that just lets you gain lore the moment it's played. Definitely going to be something we have to play around with. You can sit there and do the math across from your opponent. Okay, there's 6 lore on the board. They're at 12 lore, so I'm probably okay to, but then suddenly this comes down. Even just gaining 1 or 2 lore could be enough to win the game out. Whether that's enough for a 4 of in the deck, I don't know. But the fact that it's inkable is a real positive. I just think this is a really great card. Crazy in multiplayer, probably good enough to see 1v1 play, although I'm obviously going to be a little bit biased because this is now going alongside Sudden Chill and LeFou Instigator as one of my babies that I got to show off to everybody. But yeah, thanks again to Team Lorcana for letting me and Brandon show this off on our live stream. And if you don't already, make sure you tune into our live stream every single Monday at 8:30 Central, 9:30 Eastern, where we go over all of the cards and all of the news from the week in Lorcana. We move on. 3-costed uninkable action song in Amethyst. I nearly got my colours mixed up, but I pulled it off with nobody noticing. This is a rare card with art by Mariana Marino. And play a character with cost 4 or less for free. They gain rush, and at the end of the turn, banish them. So this was their Halloween reveal, gruesome and grim, obviously very fitting as the song that Madam Mim sings in Sword in the Stone. And at the moment, I don't necessarily think this is incredible. There are obviously some clear lines that it wants you to play within Amethyst from this set, most notably the Goat, I guess. Merlin Goat is going to be very good with this one. There's going to be some Ruby cards that we'll want to see getting played with this as well, stuff that, is going to gain rush and be able to kill something. So I think maybe an Amethyst Ruby control deck that's a little bit more focused on characters may well play this. But obviously this is another one of those cards that just gets better every time a 4-costed card with a good ETB comes down, or a 4-costed card with a good when this character banishes something comes down. This card's instantly going to get a little bit better. Also, we had a 5-costed inkable 5/5 for 2 lore in Ruby card Soldiers, an uncommon with art by Bill Robinson. It's another decently statted vanilla in Ruby. I mean, obviously this is leaning into that Ruby package that is going to want to get damage on your own characters for value, but I still think we need to see some big hitters in Ruby. I don't think Ruby's had its full shine yet. Obviously still loads of cards to reveal. I definitely think Ruby is set to have some really good stuff shown off. And it kind of bugs me that this 5-costed 5/5 doesn't have the 5 of hearts on the front of it, but even still, I love the art. It's really classic. And whilst we were recording this video, we had 2 more cards drop. First of all, one from Lorcana on Twitter, a 3-costed inkable item in Amber Dragon Gem with the ability to bring back to life. You can exert it and play 3 ink to return a character card with support from your discard to your hand. A rare card here with art by Andrew Trabold. This one's interesting. Recursion is always good. The fact that this sits around and will always recur something for 3 is very good. Hades gets a lot of play at the moment for bringing back a character. Obviously, it's really interesting to see that this has the caveat that it has to have support. And right now, the only card I think you would want to bring back with this is the Maximus from set 1, but clearly we're going to see some good support stuff in Amber to back this card up. I mean, I hope we see some good support stuff in Amber to back this card up. Support itself, on paper, is a very good ability, although I don't think it really saw that much play in set 1. I do think it's going to need a few more cards for it to really come into its own. I'm going to guess we see an Amber Sisu with support. I mean, that makes sense narratively, trying to not do too many spoilers for the movie. But yeah, or maybe a Sapphire Sisu as well, because this seems to probably fit within some sort of Healy deck. I don't know. Okay card, I think that support caveat is going to be really what makes or breaks it. If we see a good few other cards with support in this set, I definitely think it can see play. But at the moment, I don't really think this is probably going in your deck, because at the minute, you're bringing back Maximus and probably not much else. I don't think you're bringing back Phil, Merlin, or Hey with this. And last, but by no means least, the opposite of least, in fact, this is... I'll say now, this is my favourite card I've seen from set 2 so far. This is a 4-costed inkable 2/5 for 2 lore in Emerald, Donald Duck, Perfect Gentleman, a Floodborn ally with the ability Shift 3, of course, being Floodborn, and Allow Me. At the start of your turn, each player may draw a card. Uncommon! Ron Baird does the art on here, and it's great art as well. All right, my goodness, what a card. This is the first example, I'm pretty sure this is the first example in Lorcana of a group hug card. For those of you who don't know, group hug is a common bit of nomenclature across lots of trading card games, and it is a card that gives everybody at the table value. Here, at the start of your turn, each player is able to draw a card. Now, people without much trading card game experience may well think that that isn't very good, because why am I giving my opponent card draw? But actually, group hug decks are nefarious and actually very clever, because the idea is that people aren't going to want to remove this card because they're getting value out of it. But really, the trick is going to be making sure you get that little bit more value out of it. So you've got to go into a deck that is going to benefit from that. This personally clearly goes into the discard deck that Emerald is building. A lot of the cards that care about discard, things like Prince John and Flynn Rider from set 1, get a little bit weaker when your opponent's hand is completely empty, even though that is what you're trying to do with the deck. And here, this is a way of just keeping that engine going. It's always going to make sure they've just got one card that you can keep getting that discard trigger off for them. And also, card draw in Emerald is actually quite clunky at the moment. This is easily the best card draw we've had, because you're just going to be drawing 2 on your hand. You get 2 cards to look at, 2 cards to do something with before it gets passed back to them. If you're playing a heavy discard deck, chances are one of those 2 are going to be able to even discard that one in their hand before they get any chance to do anything with it. If there was instant speed interaction in the game, this card would obviously be a little bit weaker, but as it stands, this goes in mill decks probably. It probably goes in aggro decks. It definitely goes in discard decks. This is just a really good card. It's often difficult when we look at these cards in a bubble outside of the full set before people have played with them to really evaluate them, but I will happily say that I think this is a very competitive, playable card. I think it's fantastic, and it's great art as well. The only thing we really need to see now to really make it pop off is a good Donald Duck in Emerald that we can shift onto. Honestly, I'm happy to play this on turn 4. Turn 4 is just about when you really want to start loading your hand back up again. This, at the moment, will replace hands in the Emerald decks that this wants to see play in, I think. But if you can get this out a turn earlier, I think it's even more value. So yeah, this is great. This is a really great. What a card! What a card, Lorcana! There you go. That's all we got time for. Chances are there'll be more stuff revealed by the time this one comes out, because it looks like we're on a bit of a reveal train today. But at some point, I have to press stop record and go. But that point isn't now. Stop the press, because whilst I was finishing editing this, we had another reveal from Tech Raptor, and I'm just going to tag it onto the end of this one because I'm a glutton for punishment. It's a 3-costed Inkable 1/3 for 2 lore in Ruby Minnie Mouse, stylish surfer, Dreamborn hero with evasive and an uncommon card with art by Mario Oscar Gabriel. This is great in a lot of ways, honestly. It's really good to see Evasive coming back in set 2. Definitely goes before your Pongos and your Goofies and your Tiggers if you really want to play a heavy Evasive deck. Evasive was really on the cusp of being something awesome in set 1 and didn't quite make it, so seeing more support for it is fantastic. Great stat line, kills Pascals, sits and quests for 2. Just, yeah, really solid uncommon card. Very happy to see it. And also, that art is incredible because not only is Minnie looking awesome surfing, Figaro is joining her on the board there. Figaro from Pinocchio. Prove me wrong, but I'm pretty sure this is the first time we've seen a crossover on art. This is the first time there's been 2 characters from different IPs on the same card, and that gets me super excited for future sort of collaborations. That'll be really good stuff. But yeah, really nice statted early play for evasive decks. To be honest with you, this probably just goes into a lot of Ruby decks, honestly. It's such a difficult thing to get rid of. For 2 lore on 3, I don't hate it at all. Great little uncommon. And now that is all we've got time for, unless a reveal happens in the next minute, because I'm just finishing this video now. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, make sure you leave us a like. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe and do all that YouTube stuff. Until the next one, love you all to bits. Be good.